Let's bring in our political panel for today, and joining us, Labor MP Josh Wilson. Josh is in Perth. Welcome, Josh. And Nationals MP Darren Chester is in Lakes Entrance in Victoria. Welcome to you too, Darren. Why don't we start out on nuclear, because I think everyone would recognise in the Parliament that Josh is a staunch anti-nuclear campaigner. I think, though, Josh Wilson, you'd have to concede on the coalition's foreshadowed policy, you'd be most unlikely to have any one of the 5 or 6 proposed nuclear reactors based there in Western Australia where you are. Why are you so hot on this?
Well, Greg, it's just very disappointing at the national level to have the alternative government, as it would like to be, with only one energy idea, and that being something as bizarre and uneconomic as civilian nuclear power generation. They couldn't deliver a national energy strategy for 9 years in government, and now in opposition they're attached to this bizarre fantasy which is clearly not viable in Australia. It's not really viable worldwide. If you think that the peak contribution of nuclear energy globally occurred in 1996, last year we had 350 odd gigawatts of new renewable generation added worldwide, and only about 4 gigawatts of nuclear power. It's declining everywhere else, and we've looked at it over and over and over in Australia. People keep saying, let's have a conversation about nuclear. We've hardly had a conversation about anything else, and every time we look at nuclear, we get the same answer, which is that it's not economically viable. So it's sad and bizarre that the one energy policy Peter Dutton and Ted O'Brien have come up with is this nuclear energy fantasy. I mean, if they were able to go down that path, it would be at enormous economic cost to the country and to ordinary Australians. And of course, it would mean nuclear power plants dotted around the country, including in a place like Collie here in Western Australia. And
maybe also in Darren Chester's electorate of Gippsland. Darren, I think by my reckoning, if we're to sort of join the dots on what's been announced so far, you could possibly even end up with 2 nuclear reactors under the proposal. How convinced are you about this, even at a local level, that this is saleable?
Well, g'day Greg and g'day Josh, and great to join you. And coming from Gippsland, obviously you'd have to describe it as one of the more energy literate communities of the nation, because for the past 100 years we've had the brown coal-fired power stations in the Latrobe Valley, which have really underpinned the wealth of southeast Australia, and there's obviously a transition underway with those brown coal-fired power stations. Although I would note, and it's important to note, that even today with the increase in renewables, the brown coal-fired power stations in the Latrobe Valley still generate about 60% of Victoria's energy needs. So as much as Josh says he doesn't want another conversation, I'm up for the conversation. I think a sensible, honest, rational, fact-based conversation is important here, and I think it's important that we have this argument or this debate based on science and facts and not on political spin doctoring notes and scare campaigns, because in my electorate people understand that renewables are part of the future, absolutely, but you need to firm up the intermittency of renewables somehow, and at the moment that's being done by coal and gas, but here in Victoria the Victorian government wants to ban gas as well. So you're going to need something to firm up those renewables, Josh, and nuclear is one of the options that I think there's 30 developed countries around the world are using. 28 states, United States are using it, so I'm not sure why you're calling it a fantasy.
All right, Josh, a response. There's some willing acceptance to potentially host, although we don't have the details there, on Darren's part. So your response to that?
Well, I mean, I'm glad to hear from Darren. I know he said in the past that he thinks these things should proceed on the basis of a business case. I mean, we have looked very closely at this issue over and over and over, and all of the evidence, all of the facts, all of the expertise makes it clear that nuclear is the most expensive, the slowest, the least flexible, uninsurable, uncommercial form of new energy generation. It's in decline worldwide. The only 2 outfits that produce it elsewhere are government-owned. They are saddled with debt, and the CSIRO has kept a watching brief on our circumstances and circumstances elsewhere, and they show quite clearly that nuclear is the most expensive form of new energy generation, and it's significantly more expensive than firmed renewables. So that is renewables plus storage. Storage options keep developing, getting better and cheaper all the time. nuclear is in decline and is already the most expensive form of nuclear energy generation.
Right.
Those are the facts.
Well, let's come back to that when we're speaking less in the abstract and more with some specific proposals that we await from Peter Dutton and Ted O'Brien. Moving on to aged care, you might find some common ground here, both of you. I suspect there is the making of some bipartisanship to make aged care more sustainable. Darren Chester, we'll start with you. What do you make of the report, the task force report here, that kind of puts a greater user pays ethos on all of this?
Well, there's absolute bipartisanship on one point, Greg, that Josh and I both want to get old. We both want to enjoy successful careers and retire into our beautiful communities. But look, on a serious point, the challenge of aged care and respectfully looking after our older Australians who have increased needs, some of them as they get older. Keep in mind, I think it's about 200,000 Australians are in some form of permanent residential aged care, but an additional 200,000 older Australians are receiving some form of help in their own home. So understanding what Australians want as they age is really important, and I think the previous government and the current government are approaching this problem the right way, trying to find ways to allow people to stay in their own homes for longer. One of the big challenges is making sure you listen to older Australians, and I don't think the government has done enough listening in this task force report, and that's only a mild criticism. I think they should have listened to more older people, but I understand they're now going to take this task force report out to the community for more responses. But the bottom line remains that the skilled workforce in the aged care sector is a challenge for us. It's a challenge for the last government and a challenge for this government. What you've seen is a lot of people in the care sector, people who are inclined to work in the care industry, have chosen the disability sector because it's financially more rewarding, and we've got to find ways to make sure that people still choose the aged care sector, and we respect that generation, that older generation of Australians who have served our nation often in conflict through World War II, the Korean War and Vietnam War, and built the country we all enjoy today. We need to make sure that those older Australians are well respected in their retirement years, and if they need additional care, that it's available to them, not just in the cities but also in regional and remote areas.
Well, exactly. There are particular needs in those regions. Josh Wilson, do you think there is the making of a deal here? No one's saying anything particularly hostile about the sensibilities, I suppose, of the task force report.
No, I think Darren said it very well. We know that this is a challenge that we need to grasp in government and really in the parliament in a bipartisan, sensible way. Aged care is absolutely critical. Older Australians deserve the highest quality care. In order to provide that, costs are increasing and we need to be sensible about how we deal with them. I thought that Mike Baird spoke very thoughtfully this morning in describing the task force's work. The government's been clear. We're not interested in a sort of a community-wide levy as a cost solution, and we're certainly not going to change anything when it comes to the means testing of people's personal homes. The idea that you do look for ways in which those who are accessing aged care and can contribute more to the costs of the care would do so seems to make a lot of sense, and it's something that the Minister will now do, having received the report.
Yeah, no, it has been fairly broadly accepted. Look, there's more we would love to have got across with both of you today, but time is running away from us really quickly today. I might hold some of those thoughts, electoral reform and the like, we can come back to. Pretty sure that's going to be on the deck for a while. Darren Chester, Josh Wilson, thanks to both.
Thanks, Greg. See you, Darren.
All the best. Have a great day. Thank you.
All right.